He laptop wasn't mine, but when I grabbed it from the kitchen counter that Tuesday morning in October 2015, thinking it was the one I always used. I didn't notice the difference until I opened it and saw Bradley's email account already logged in with an unread message from D in his inbox saying, "Last night was perfect. Can't stop thinking about your hands on my body. Counting down until Greg takes the kids to soccer Saturday so we can have the whole afternoon." And that's when I realized my husband of 22 years had been sleeping with my best friend Diane, the woman who'd been my maid of honor, who I'd nursed through her divorce 3 years ago, who came to our house twice a week for book club while I was at my part-time pottery classes, thinking I was being supportive of her loneliness, when actually I was being the fool who created the perfect schedule for my husband to betray me in my own bed. I'm 67 now, sitting in my ceramic studio in Santa Fe that employs 15 artists and ships pieces worldwide, and I need to tell you about the day I accidentally opened the wrong laptop and discovered a truth that destroyed my marriage but saved my life. Because sometimes the worst thing that happens becomes the door to the best version of yourself you never knew existed. That Tuesday morning started like any other. I was Linda Morrison, 52 years old, married to Bradley Morrison, corporate lawyer, living in our comfortable four-bedroom house in San Diego suburbs. Our twin daughters Emma and Sophie were away at college. I worked part-time as an elementary school librarian, took pottery classes on Tuesday and Thursday evenings at the community center, and believed my biggest problem was deciding whether to repaint the guest bedroom. Bradley had left for work early, 6:30 a.m., said he had a deposition to prepare. I was running late, needed to grab my laptop to finish the library's new catalog system. We had identical silver MacBooks, both on the kitchen counter. I grabbed the one closest to the door. In my car, waiting for it to boot up, I noticed Bradley's desktop background, a photo from our Hawaii trip last year instead of the flower garden photo I used. Before I could close it and grab the right laptop, a notification popped up. New email from D. I should have closed it immediately, respected his privacy, but something about the message preview, "Last night was perfect," made my stomach drop. I clicked it. The email was explicit, detailed. Diane describing what they'd done Monday night while I was at pottery class, where she'd touched him, what he'd whispered to her, how the risk of getting caught made it more exciting. She signed it, "Your D, always." I sat in my car in the driveway reading that email over and over, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped the laptop. This wasn't possible. Diane was my closest friend for 8 years. We met through a neighborhood book club, bonded over similar life stages, supported each other through her divorce 3 years ago. She came to our house every Wednesday and Saturday. Book club Wednesdays, coffee and chat Saturdays. Except there was no book club. I checked Bradley's calendar on the laptop. Every Wednesday at 7 p.m., evening meeting. Every Saturday at 2 p.m., client consultation. I opened his email history. The messages went back 18 months. 18 months of "I love you, can't wait to feel you again. Linda's so oblivious. She actually thanked me for keeping you company while she does her little pottery hobby." My little pottery hobby. The thing that brought me joy that I'd apologized for 1,000 times, "Sorry, dinner's late, I was at class," had been the cover for my husband to sleep with my best friend. I scrolled through message after message. They discussed me, laughed about my naivety. Bradley called me dependable Linda, boring, predictable, too focused on the library and pottery to notice what was happening in my own marriage. Deanne called me sweet but clueless, said she almost felt guilty, except I was so boring that I probably didn't even care about sex anymore. One message from 4 months ago made me close the laptop and vomit in the driveway bushes. Bradley had written, "Linda's talking about cutting back her pottery classes because she feels guilty leaving me alone so much. I told her she should keep going, that I don't mind being alone. LOL. Poor Linda, so worried about abandoning me when I'm desperately trying to get more time with you. I'd almost quit pottery because I felt guilty, and he'd encouraged me to keep going so he could continue his affair." I sat in my car until 10 a.m., missing work completely, reading through 18 months of betrayal. Then I did what any woman in her right mind would do. I forwarded every single email to my own account, took screenshots of his calendar, copied every photo they'd sent each other, including ones I wish I'd never seen taken in our guest bedroom, and then carefully placed the laptop back exactly where I'd found it on the kitchen counter. I called in sick to the library, first sick day I'd taken in 3 years. Then I drove to a coffee shop 3 towns over where no one knew me. I needed to think without the risk of running into anyone from my life. The truth was devastating, but somehow I felt calm. Ice cold calm, maybe shock, maybe the clarity that comes when the worst thing you can imagine turns out to be real and you realize you're still breathing. I made a list on a napkin. What I know, husband plus best friend having affair for 18 months, using my schedule against me, mocking me in private, no remorse, only entitlement what I want. Divorce, keep the house, California community property. I'm entitled to half of everything. Never see either of them again. Start over completely what I need. Lawyer evidence already secured. Plan courage, that last word I circled 3 times. Courage, I sat in that coffee shop until 4 p.m., researching divorce lawyers on my phone. I found one an hour away in a different county, Miriam Chen, specializing in high asset divorce with infidelity. Her website said, "You don't need to prove fault in California, but leverage matters." I called. Her assistant said she had an opening tomorrow at 2 p.m. I took it. When I got home that evening, Bradley was already there, loosening his tie, looking like any normal husband after any normal workday. "Where were you today?" he asked, not really interested, already scrolling through his phone. "Library called me asking if you were okay." "Wasn't feeling well," I said, keeping my voice steady. "Must be a virus. That's too bad," he replied, not looking up. "Diane texted asking if we want to grab dinner Friday. I told her we'd check with you." Diane, my best friend. Texting my husband about dinner plans while sleeping with him behind my back. "Sure," I said. "That sounds nice." He looked up, surprised. Usually I checked my calendar first, worried about conflicts. "Great. I'll tell her yes." That night, lying in bed next to Bradley, I felt nothing. No love, no anger, not even disgust. Just emptiness where 22 years of marriage used to be. He fell asleep immediately. I stared at the ceiling, planning. The next day I met with Miriam Chen. She was late 50s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. She read through the evidence I'd brought, printed emails, screenshots, photos, without visible reaction. "This is thorough," she said finally. "Most clients don't come this prepared." "I accidentally saw it all at once," I explained. "I had time to be strategic instead of emotional." "Good emotion is expensive in divorce. Strategy wins." She leaned forward. "California is no fault, so this doesn't affect the divorce itself, but it affects settlement negotiations. Your husband's a lawyer. He knows if this becomes public, his reputation suffers. We can use that." We discussed strategy for 2 hours. By the end, I had a plan. File for divorce quietly, demand 60% of assets, more than half, but less than a battle would cost him. Keep the house, spousal support for 5 years while I retrained for new career, complete financial transparency. His lawyer income plus firm partnership. "What about the friend?" Miriam asked. "Any legal action there?" I thought about it. Diane wasn't worth the energy. "No, the best revenge is living well and never speaking to her again." Miriam smiled. "Smart woman. Wasting time on someone who means nothing gives them power. Focus on yourself." I filed for divorce that Friday, had him served at his office Monday morning. By noon, my phone had 17 missed calls from Bradley, 12 from Diane. I didn't answer any of them. That evening, Bradley came home early, his face red with fury and shock. "What the hell, Linda? Divorce papers? Because of what, you're bored, feeling neglected?" "No," I said calmly, "because you've been sleeping with Diane for 18 months. I have every email, every photo, every calendar entry. My lawyer has copies. Your firm's managing partners don't have copies yet, but they will if you make this difficult." His face went white. "How did you?" "I accidentally grabbed your laptop, saw an email from D, read everything." He sat down heavily on the sofa. We stood there in silence for a moment. "Linda, I can explain. I don't want explanations. I want a divorce. My lawyer sent you settlement terms. They're generous considering what I could expose. Accept them and this stays private. Fight me and everyone knows. This is blackmail. No, this is strategy. You taught me that, remember? All those years listening to you discuss cases over dinner." He tried every tactic over the next hour: denial, minimization, blame. "You were always at those stupid pottery classes." Promises: "I'll end it, we can fix this." Threats: "You won't get a penny." I stayed calm through all of it. Finally, he left, slamming the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. Diane showed up 2 hours later, mascara running, desperate. "Linda, please, let me explain. It just happened. We didn't mean get out of my house. We've been friends for 8 years. We've been nothing. Friends don't do what you did. Leave." She tried several more times over the following weeks, texts, calls, showing up at the library. I blocked her number, told my principal about the situation, asked security to bar her from campus. Eventually, she gave up. The divorce took 4 months. Bradley's lawyer tried to fight the settlement, but Miriam was better. When Bradley realized fighting would cost more than agreeing, he signed. I got 60% of assets, the house, 5 years spousal support, half his retirement. I was 52 years old, suddenly single after 22 years of marriage, with more money than I'd ever had and absolutely no idea what to do next. The answer came from an unexpected source: pottery. My Tuesday and Thursday classes at the community center had been my escape during the divorce. While lawyers negotiated and papers processed, I spent hours at the wheel, centering clay, shaping vessels, learning to create beauty from formless earth. "You're really good at this," my instructor Marcus said one evening, watching me glaze a set of bowls I'd thrown. Have you thought about doing this professionally? I'm 52 years old. Nobody starts a career in ceramics at 52. Why not? You've got time, money from the settlement, and actual talent. I've been teaching 20 years. You're the best student I've had. His words planted a seed. That night, I researched ceramics programs, artist residencies, gallery representation. The possibilities were overwhelming and exciting. I started small, took a 3-month intensive course in ceramics at a local art college. Learned advanced techniques, hand building, surface design, specialized firing methods. Rented a small studio space. Spent entire days working with clay, failing, learning, improving. My daughters came home for Thanksgiving that first year. They'd been shocked by the divorce but supportive once I explained. Diane had tried to contact them too, playing victim. They blocked her. "Mom, you seem different," Emma said, watching me pack pieces for a craft fair. "Different how? Happier, more alive. You were always so stressed before, trying to manage everyone else's needs. Now you're doing what you want." She was right. For 22 years, I'd been dependable Linda, reliable librarian, supportive wife, available mother, loyal friend. I'd made myself small, undemanding, easy to ignore. Now I was becoming someone else, someone who put herself first. The craft fair was eye-opening. My pieces sold out in 3 hours. People loved the organic shapes, the unexpected color combinations, the way my bowls felt in the hand. I came home with orders for 30 more pieces and a request from a small gallery to show my work. That was 2016. By 2018, I had left the library job entirely, was working full-time in a larger studio, showing in galleries across California. By 2020, despite pandemic challenges, my pieces were selling internationally through an online presence I'd built. By 2022, I'd moved to Santa Fe, opened my own studio with workspace for other artists, and was teaching workshops. Now, in 2024, I'm 67 years old. My studio represents 15 ceramic artists. We ship worldwide. I've been featured in design magazines, taught at art centers, had my work included in museum collections. I never remarried. Maybe I will someday, maybe I won't. The point is, it's my choice, my life, my terms. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Bradley married Deanne 2 years after our divorce. They moved to Arizona. I don't know if they're happy. I don't care. What I care about is the clay under my fingernails, the satisfaction of pulling a perfect bowl from the kiln, the pride of seeing my students develop their own voices. I care about the woman I became after the worst betrayal of my life forced me to rebuild from nothing. Sometimes people ask if I forgive Bradley and Diane. The question misses the point. Forgiveness isn't the opposite of holding a grudge, indifference is. I genuinely don't think about them. They're not part of my story anymore. They were characters in someone else's life, the life of dependable, boring Linda who no longer exists. The woman I am now, the one who took a part-time hobby and turned it into an international business, who moved across the country alone at 65, who built a community of artists and teaches workshops to people half her age, that woman was forged in the fire of betrayal. If you're facing something similar, if someone you trusted destroyed your world, I want you to know this. You get to decide what happens next. Not immediately, grief and shock take time, but eventually you'll reach a point where you choose. Stay destroyed or rebuild into something better. I chose rebuild, and the life I built is more beautiful than anything I lost. That Tuesday morning in October 2015, when I accidentally grabbed the wrong laptop and saw that email, I thought my life was ending. I was wrong. It was the day my real life finally began. Subscribe if you haven't already and stay tuned for the next one. Let's support each other.